Australia's history is a rich tapestry of ancient cultures, colonial expansion, and modern development. Here's an overview. Pre-colonial history, 50,000 BC, 1788 CE. Indigenous Australians. The history of Australia begins with its indigenous peoples, who are believed to have arrived over 50,000 years ago. These diverse groups, including the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, developed complex societies with distinct languages, cultures, and spiritual beliefs. Dreamtime. Indigenous Australians have a rich oral tradition known as the Dreamtime, which encompasses the creation stories, laws, and cultural practices that define their relationship with the land. Land management. Indigenous Australians practice sophisticated land management techniques, including controlled burning and sustainable hunting and gathering practices, which helped maintain the environment for thousands of years. European exploration, 1606 to 1788. Early exploration. The first recorded European sighting of Australia was in 1606 by Dutch navigator Willem Janszoon. Over the next century and a half, other European explorers, including the Dutch, Spanish, and British, charted parts of the Australian coastline. Captain James Cook. In 1770, British explorer Captain James Cook claimed the eastern coast of Australia for Britain, naming it New South Wales. His detailed maps and reports paved the way for British colonization. British colonization, 1788 to 1850. First Fleet and Penal Colony. In 1788, the First Fleet, carrying convicts, landed at Botany Bay, but later moved to Port Jackson, where they established the first British colony in Australia, Sydney. Australia was initially used as a penal colony, with convicts sent from Britain to alleviate overcrowded prisons. Expansion and conflict. As the colony grew, British settlers expanded across the continent, often leading to violent conflicts with Indigenous Australians, whose land and resources were taken. The introduction of European diseases also had a devastating impact on Indigenous populations. Exploration and settlements. Throughout the early 19th century, explorers charted the interior of Australia, leading to the establishment of additional colonies in Tasmania, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia. Gold Rush and economic growth, 1850 to 1900. Gold Rush. The discovery of gold in the 1850s sparked a massive influx of immigrants from around the world, particularly from China, the UK, and the US. The gold rushes transformed Australia's economy and accelerated its development. Colonial self-government. During this period, the Australian colonies gained more self-governing powers. Each colony developed its own government, and democratic institutions began to take shape. Indigenous displacement. The rapid expansion of European settlements led to further displacement and suffering for Indigenous Australians, including loss of land, culture, and lives. Federation and early 20th century, 1901 to 1945. Federation. On January 1, 1901, the 6 Australian colonies united to form the Commonwealth of Australia, a self-governing nation within the British Empire. The new constitution established a federal system of government, with powers shared between the Commonwealth and the states. White Australia policy. Early in its history, Australia implemented the White Australia policy, which restricted non-European immigration. This policy reflected the racial attitudes of the time and shaped Australia's demographic makeup for decades. World War I. Australia played a significant role in World War I, with many Australians serving in the Gallipoli Campaign and on the Western Front. The war had a profound impact on Australian society, with significant loss of life and a growing sense of national identity. Post-war era and modern Australia, 1945-present. Post-war immigration. After World War II, Australia embarked on a massive immigration program to boost its population and workforce. Immigrants from Europe, and later from Asia and other parts of the world, helped transform Australia into a multicultural society. Economic growth. Australia experienced sustained economic growth in the post-war years, driven by industries such as mining, agriculture, and manufacturing. The country became one of the wealthiest nations in the world. Indigenous rights. From the 1960s onwards, Indigenous Australians began to gain more recognition and rights. Key milestones include the 1967 referendum, which allowed Indigenous Australians to be counted in the census, and the 1992 Mabwa decision, which recognized native title rights. Environmental and social changes. Australia has faced challenges related to environmental conservation, climate change, and social inequality. Debates around these issues continue to shape Australian politics and society. Global role. Today, Australia is a stable and prosperous nation with a strong economy and a significant role in regional and global affairs. It is known for its high quality of life, vibrant multicultural society, and unique natural environment. Australia's history is one of resilience and transformation, marked by its indigenous heritage, colonial legacy, and emergence as a modern, multicultural nation.